Alrighty, looks like the broadcast is finally working. Hello to the chat there, Solo Spirit, Ronaldo, Shergol, Fabian, Clive. Welcome to my pre-holiday live stream. The holiday is mine. Hey, Blasted. If it happens, it all depends. There's a lot to do. We have a lot of prep that needs working on for our upcoming Kickstarter that we're working on. The next one obviously is going to be the Traveller 5th Frontier War campaign. I would really like for there to be a reserve page up ahead of launching, and whilst I could easily just do one on Kickstarter, this time we're working with a company called Launchboom, trying to do a bit more of a job of it to see if we can reach a much wider audience. And remains to be seen how this is all going to work out. Hey, Mon Capitan. Nice to see some new faces, some familiar faces. For those of you who don't know, I'm Ben from Second Dynasty. At Second Dynasty, we make 3D printable spaceships, and we also work with a menagerie of talented sculptors for figures as well. Last week, when we were here, let me just maybe I will move over. We were working on I was working on this smaller design, and this was my intention to put out for our August Tribes release. We're still a couple of weeks off. I want to make a big impression with our tribe. It's our Patreon-like service where we put out a new vehicle every month for your 3D printer at 28mm scale. And this coming month we actually have a bunch of stuff coming because I'd really love to celebrate the release of Alien Romulus. I'm very excited about that film, and should be seeing it pretty much when it comes out. But in the meantime, there's been a lot of stuff happening. Obviously, Alban has been on holidays, so it's just me and the modeling side of things. Of course, I also am responsible for running the company since I own it. And just with the staff gone and that sort of thing, Lisa-Lot was back this week so we could get some of the bookkeeping out of the way and that sort of thing. So last year I planned to have 4 weeks off, ended up having 2 just because there was too much work to do. I really don't want to be in that situation again now, because I do firmly believe that you need to take some time off to recharge the creative batteries, so to speak. After talking with you guys actually last week, one of the issues I had with this thing was that it is very large, and it just felt like a little bit too much work. Ironically, I think I put even more work in than I would have. And so the result was a smaller ship that seems to be a more respectable size. Let me just close those off and we can take a look at it. So I'm calling this one the Ox. And if we put the containers on here, I think that should be in Workshop. There we go. You can kind of see that it's like a little cargo container lifter. And this is actually pretty much the printed prototype. Let me just it's not quite there. Wait, did I create a second scene with just my full screen? I don't think I did. It's a bit annoying. Maybe I can quickly do that. New scene, and I want to just put in this one. Let's see, copy. See if we can paste. Yeah, I'm tiny there, so let's try let's try and make a full camera. So I want a video capture device. Okay, and that did not work at all. Let me see if I can pick an existing one instead. Add existing, that one. Okay, there we go. So that's not really ideal. You can see the mess my office is in. It's like we're having guests soon, so I'm kind of cleaning up. I just wanted to get this ready so I can actually show off what we've got to show. It's not fully printed. I did bring my printer home last night, but yeah, it's not perfect yet. Yeah, just get this together before I show it off. And the legs are falling out, and there's a door missing, and the front's not on, and there's so much to do. And I could well break any of these parts at any point in time now. So let me just attach the front and basically give you guys typical. Doesn't look like anything properly broke. I scared the dog. He's gone off. He's not happy. Decided it's time to readjust things. So yeah, that was unnecessary. Let me let me try this again. I've got all the hands wrong here, but here we go. Let's see. So parts of it are not on yet. Have more engines to attach, but you get an idea of the size. This is like probably the largest Tribes release we've done. In a long time. Certainly the largest release we've ever done in a single month. That's not divided up, and so yeah, that's kind of like where we're at with that. Raggy. You heard it clumping again there. So I have some work to do. Clearly, ironically, not that much actually broke. But yeah, this is. Let's go over to Maya where it's a lot safer instead, huh? What? For shipping the docks of Normandy Station. Not following that reference. So we have our ramp at the front, which closes up quite nicely. Okay. Whoops. I built it in 3 parts this time, so we actually have a central hinge here, like so, and then that flips over like so. Right, so you got this nice front, fully articulated engines, so they can move up and down like so, and then of course they can move like so. So I don't have an RCS system on this. I've got 2 main engines. I wanted to make it feel like it fits in with the Star Mule and the Spider Crab. So the Star Mule you might remember as this one. So it's like a carryall, and this is like the larger version. So carryall is probably not the right word. Ox is the series I'm going to go with. Kind of like going up in scale, so that then you would have like the Mastodon, and then you would have the Mammoth. I think that's the right order. And there you have the Spider Crab. So it's meant to all feel like it's the same manufacturer, basically. But later on in the year, because we have to delay the Nostromo-like ship I was planning to do. It's just, to do it justice, it needs a lot more time. So I was thinking we'd do the Star Mastodon, this series of ships, along with the Hammerhead, which I was going to release in, say, November or something like that. So, in theory, it can work out that way. I don't know if that'll be the case. Like, if we do extremely well with the Traveller Kickstarter, we might be in a different situation. I don't know. If it performs as our campaigns usually do, then, yeah, this will be later in the year with the larger versions. But for now, we have the base ship here, and it also has, you can kind of see the command module. Inside there's a little room, and I thought what we could work on today is figuring out what's going to go in this little room, because I probably do want to do a tiny bit more hull detailing. There's more detailing here than there was when I started. Like, I added a channel in case you want to put a support in there. I don't think it'll be necessary. It's so light. And I'm starting to wonder if lightening, the method I use for infill, is actually an issue with the clips because they tend to feel quite loose. I think because there's no support structure behind where the clips are going. And then actually I can put some lighting on so that this feels a little bit more lively. Let's see, I want to make sure the shadows are working. And before I came on here, what I was focusing on is just fixing a few issues I noticed during the printing. So even though technically we still have 2 weeks left, well, maybe 11 days, something like that, 12 days before this gets released to tribes, I need to be finished and hand this off to Albin. And obviously the last couple of months it hasn't been a Ben design. We had Mikhail that did the rover, the Mad Max style vehicles that we have out at this time. And Fabian, I saw another question. What happened to it? That would make this one the moose, or Ellie. Yeah. Well, the ox, I think, is kind of like about right. And I can imagine doing a closed version of this, actually, as a kind of like boarding, maybe not a boarding ship, but like a landing ship. Like, it kind of feels like a World War II landing craft, doesn't it? Like, I had to thicken up the walls here because they just weren't working out. And if I had more time and had already a good example of it, like some cargo netting in this sort of nook would be nice. In theory, it should be fairly easy to extend this. You gotta leave that up to, the regulars, but if I were to extend this, you could literally just take out the 2 inches here. You can kind of see by the squares here that those are 2 inches wide, or about 5.8 centimeters, 5.08, sorry. So you could basically just cut out the center of this piece and then repeat it with you'd have to put clip holes in, but it wouldn't be a complicated operation. Let's see. The Normandy station reference is because it looks like oh, right, yes, okay, yep. That it does, and I literally started talking about that, so I guess I should read the chat more. If I want to be Finnish, Hervey, I don't want to be Finnish. Finnish is a difficult language. They have way too many vowels. Or rather, in a row. So I'm guessing that the cargo area will be modular and we can make it longer. Not as built out. This is all functionality that I think I would probably release, like, say, later in the year if we do the larger variants. Lengthwise, it's not hard to extend it. It's just, technically this part's completely repeatable. So as long as you're happy with having additional engines in there, yeah, you could lengthen the barge very easily. So you just repeat this part, and it just means you need more engines. The engines themselves, I'm finding, are extremely loose. Let's see, I think I have a design here. So I'm going to show you part of the issue, but I might switch to the camera again. So here is an engine, and the part that I had is actually snapped off, and you can see this is way too loose. And even this feels very loose, and I think it's to do with the lightning. I'm not sure, so I don't know if that's the wisest thing to have on such a small ship. I could be wrong. I did bring the printer home and installed a new version of Orca Slicer, so not entirely sure. Let's see, I think maybe let's just take a brief detour and I will show you where we're at. So this launch boom business I was talking about um, with the Fifth Frontier War campaign. So as a part of that, I think what we'll do for something different is John's going to be doing the. Thanks for the Robotech link, by the way, Blast, that I did end up backing up. But just for the PDFs, the shipping to Sweden was $45. No, not happening. So, yeah, I just I was happy to. Sorry, this base version is the Imperial Marine. Now, this isn't a Star Marine. This is combat armor, not power armor, or otherwise known as battle dress in the Traveller universe. So this is based on the Mongoose second edition art, and this sculpt or something very similar will put up as our sort of like bonus item. And because we're doing physical prints alongside STL files, it does significantly increase our overheads and profit decrease our profit margins drastically. But our sales material is going to be a little bit more focused on the physical side because we're already getting in the people with 3D printers. It's like we have a built-in audience for that. We'd like to reach some new people, and it makes sense to appeal mostly to the people that aren't already following us, like you guys. Like and subscribe. So yeah, this is just one of the base poses, nice and relaxed. And the idea will be, if you sign up, there's two options. Either you can submit your email to be reminded of when we go live, or you can pay just $1 to reserve a spot, and we will give you the STL file, this bonus STL file that it'll be an exclusive one, right? And if you do end up backing for the physical prints, you'll also get a physical version of that miniature printed for free, so not just the exclusive STL file. So I wanted to bring that up, and we do have some other progress on some of the Zodani poses and that sort of thing. I'm not... Kosh Nico's working on those ones. We ran into some issues with our seating, so it kind of ended up looking a bit wrong because of the scaling being off. I hope this is a modern chair and not an older one that I'm looking at. Let me just open this so that you can kind of see what I'm talking about. It's much smaller. What? Why is that so small? It's like twice the size on my other screen. Okay. In any case, let's try this. So here's another pose. And you can kind of see here, this is definitely more of the Zodani look. I suspect Mongoose will want to minimize the turban a little bit, make it look a little bit more distinct. But otherwise, for a really boring armor, I think this is coming across quite nicely at this point in time. Like, the designs that we were basing it off is definitely the lesser of the two different... Like, there are two different Zodani style armors. This is the officer armor. It has this more, like, ribbed version. Like, I think the Grunt version actually has a more interesting, like, cross-hash pattern, sorry, on the chest. So yeah, this is far from perfect pose-wise, but considering what we were starting with and working with, and I think I showed it off last week how like the initial version, was just not up to snuff, so Kai's really done a good job there. Then we have a few other poses that just... This one, I think it's pretty good. The laser rifle was modeled by Mikel as well, the same guy that did our rovers. And then we have like the sword pose, and to me, this needs reworking, mostly because it looks like the sword is in the wrong hand. I mean, I think it's more common for people to be right-handed, and we could just mirror this sculpt fairly easily. But I think like having, if you've got an officer in an army and we wanted a sword pose for it, what makes sense is more like a Napoleonic War style officer, pointing the sword to direct the troops, right? That's what I'm thinking. So we're going to work on changing that pose to that. And then we have one with a pistol. Also, all of those Zodani weapons have been modeled by Mikkel. So that's where we're at with those. I should probably say that I haven't had access to my chat whilst this is happening. So let me catch up on that and make sure that I actually have the right windows open. So let's see. You said you want it to be finished. Context to what? I've probably moved on too much. But yeah. Imperial Doom Marine. Yeah, it is a bit doomish. But in any case, and actually it's almost like Doom Medieval, right? Because the armor is a little bit, I don't know, medieval. It's sci-fi and medieval at the same time in some ways. So, I think it's a good job. Let's see. So I'm going to move along from there because I've already blathered on. So there are a few things that I need to look at. I'm going to turn my workshop back on. So one of the things I found is that this piece here, I think it was designed, and actually John's in the chat, so maybe John can confirm, that the original piece, I've put two pieces together here, and I have a sneaking suspicion that I redesigned this to sort of print out like this, but I feel now that it was designed to print out like this. And that's a problem, because the structural integrity is here in this direction, it's not in the other, but I can't get this shape if I remove it. So I have a few options, none of which I love, if I'm being honest. I think, yeah, that's the intention orientato. So this second one, right? Yeah. So I'll buy the justification for swords as boarding weapons in Traveller, but there's still far too many swords in sci-fi in general these days. I think that's kind of why I just want it as a ceremonial weapon, right? People weren't really fighting with officer swords, but still carried them like well into like the First World War, right? And then it could be like more to do with the noble class and a dueling tradition or something like that. I'm not sure what the justification is, but yeah. So this is one of the things we need to work on. One thing I was going to try is, you can already see I've thickened up this wall a little bit, but it's not going to help too much because we just need to well, the orientation it's in at present, there's much less surface area now, so ideally I should be able to find a way to connect these two parts together rather than having them as one solid object. I really don't love that, especially since it starts meaning that we have to get further out with these objects and that sort of thing. So it's not ideal. But here, let me put it this way. Let me get up Prusa Slicer and we'll look at it. So here are a few of the parts I was working on. We're still trying to make these print support free, obviously, and they do. And I actually added this cavity in the middle just so we get some additional rings around. I really do feel like the lightning infill is a bit of an issue when it comes to like the the clip holes because you've only got 2 layers there, and you can kind of see as we go down. Wait, is this not set to lightning all of a sudden? Let's see, support material. Oh, not support. Infill is what I'm looking for. So, okay, yeah, this is set to grid, not to lightning. So I can hopefully... I updated Prusa Slicer, and I think that's why it's not behaving. But if we look down, what lightning does is it makes the ship significantly lighter, which I love. But you can see here that there's just these 2 layers in the clip holes, right? And I'm finding them very, very loose. Oh, you add manual custom infill near clip holes. Crosshatch is probably like, as opposed to let's see, so we've got lightning, and what you're saying is crosshatch is a better, so it should be in here, right? Or is it a sub selection? Length of anchor. I feel like I've seen this setting in here. Let's see. So quality. Let's see. Same position aligning, walls and surfaces, bridging, overhangs. Strength is where we want it. Sorry. So let's see. Infill here is set to lightning. It's an Orca slicer thing. So yeah. Crosshatch. There. Okay. There we go. So it not being a part of Prusa Slicer is a bit of an issue. And here, these parts are not really an ideal example because we're in a different situation with these. So I'm just slicing it in here. But you can kind of see that the infill pattern, when we bring it down, there's not like a super amount around here, but there is a bit more structural support around areas where it's important. So this probably would be better than, I don't know, it still doesn't look very solid in here. I think I really need to get in an object that's actually going to show off this. So let's put in the one of the pieces. Let's see. Let's just rearrange this so it's less of a mess, and slice the plate. So again, if we go in through here, let's look and see what the pattern looks like. So we might potentially need more than 15% if this is what 15% is doing, because that's still not doing anything for these clip holes whatsoever. Is that the issue? Infill 15%. Oh, I didn't. Did I not change that? I could swear I changed that. Oh, I set one object, and I'm still setting one object. Okay, yeah, I need to change the global. That's the problem. Yep, sorry about that, guys. So here we go again. That looks better. That looks also way heavier, if I'm being honest. But I'd rather have some more solid print. So this is my point. Okay, another thing I didn't like is, and I think even on the demo version you might have been able to see or hear it, but referring to this part here, if I isolate it, you can see it's got this little hook. I've already increased the size of the hook a little bit, and I'm also increasing the size of these bumps by about 5%, just because it's not really, again, it's like, you can see how loose this is, so it's not working as intended. Right now it's just going around in circles. So what we really need to do is test one of these with those changes and make a few minor adaptations. So the big question is, how do we solve this issue? The other issue that I might look at, sorry about that, is, yeah, what's in this room underneath. And I also noticed that in my print, you can kind of see here that this has this support area underneath, and that is missing from the opposite side. So before I forget, we should probably just delete, you know, one half of this, making sure we're not taking stuff we're not supposed to take away. And none of this is John friendly, so I'm gonna have to go through and name everything, because I think this is getting to the point where instructions are good. I can drop crosshatch to 5%. Alright. So would you say crosshatch or lightning is your preferred method at the moment, John? Let's drop that down to 5. And slice it again. So yeah, I realize that this sort of like hooks in underneath, and it is a little bit on the loose side here. I think this can come back a little bit just to make it a bit more solid, and then I might actually add just a tiny little bit of ribbing. And what I mean by ribbing, I'm kind of just winging it as far as naming conventions are concerned, but let's see. So I want to add a line here somewhere, make sure that is there, and then I'm just going to grab this, go and say like offset of 2. Ew, that looks horrible. We'll fix it though, and then do the same here. Let's see, offset 2. And then I'm just actually gonna move these back almost all the whole way. So we don't really need snapping, we'll just move it there. And basically all I'm looking for is creating a bit of structure here so that this part isn't as weak as it ended up being. And when you have the weakness in the design in the way that that it's due to the print orientation, one way you can kind of like help just a little bit is just by adding a tiny bit of support. So something like this, make sure it's not interfering with anything. It gives us a little bit of interior detail. So I don't know if I might put out this room as is. I don't know. I think it's more important to get the mechanical stuff done. This as it is a massive design. If we do the ship series later, I will likely go back and add a bit of detail to that little cabin. I have included, like, in the back wall, just this sort of pattern here, so you could put an insert in if you wanted to, although it would have to still be custom. Alright, let's duplicate that and merge it together. And we need to export it again. So actually what I'm going to do is load it in Prusa Slicer first. So let's go and add this, the old part first. It should have been fairly recent. There it is. Still might need a little bit of support on the underside. I haven't really looked at it. It came out perfectly fine, to be honest. I think it did a remarkably good job. But what I wanted to do is to have the old part and the new part to compare them. So what I'll do is I will save over, but it's not going to update in Prusa Slicer. Okay, so it doesn't. Prusa Slicer doesn't go and look at your hard drive and when you change something, edit it. So it should be. Let's sort this by name. What did we call this actually? Let's see. Cabin roof should be the end of the name. Cabin roof, where are you? Must be blind or something. There it is, cabin roof. Export selected, go OK. And then we do an import, again, a separate one. And we'll be able to run a fix operation on that. We'll be able to orient it, and I'll orient it in such a way now so that they can be side by side. Let's just organize the build plate. Actually, let's delete. I'm going to just export these, making sure I'm saving over. Like so. And now let's look at the comparisons. So this one, obviously this first one was missing the original opposite side. This version now, it's not perfectly strong when we're going in the Z or Z axis vertically. So if I draw this down here, you can kind of see the difference. Now obviously if I was looking at this in a different slicer, just like a star fortress, basically the angles here are actually providing additional strength than just a flat line. So the purpose of these is just to thicken it up in places, so hopefully it won't bend or snap as much as it otherwise would. Alright, so that's where we're at. And so we will return to our scene. So that part's fixed now. We can delete the history, and actually why not, since we have it up, I'm going to export this and save. And if I click reload from disk on this now, it should update to that updated version. So that worked nicely. And what I can actually do is steal this name, like so, and just copy it into Maya so that I know at least one part is named for John when he eventually does get to do some assembly instructions for this. Though to begin with, we'll probably just do we'll just do like a blowout version or a simple version. It's all what I can get done this weekend, basically. It will be a bit of a rush job, but you are getting a shit ton more bang for your buck than you otherwise would be. So we still need a solution for this. Let's see. Let me catch up. If that were actually true, armies would still be using swords and spears today instead of bullets. It's all about resource management and that sort of thing. I can still see some. It depends what those. It depends how good the armor is. Now, Traveller specifically, the swords are rubbish, and the reason why is like the reason in Dune. Okay, you've got force fields that don't work against bladed weapons, but they do prevent like ranged weapons. What we found is like when, especially if we're wearing battle dress, but even combat armor, it's actually very hard to get hit in Traveller Mongoose 2nd edition. So like the armor takes a lot of the hits because you don't. It's not like D&D where you're wearing full plate and you got +8 to armor. Armor works as in like soaking the damage, and when you've got armor, like most weapons probably only do 3d6 or maybe 4d6, 5d6 if you're lucky. But even on average, like you're like even with 5d6, what's that? 3.5 times 5, so that's like 17.5 average damage, something like that. So when your armor is like 22, 23, none of that damage is getting through. And I mean, some things are like armor piercing and that sort of thing, but it doesn't help. So if they had swords where there was an explanation that, like, for example, lightsabers just cut through it like butter, that would make sense. But not in the case of, like, regular swords. I'd say they're just leftover ceremonial weapons, and there's probably some noble cased dueling going on. That's about it. However, in Traveller, there is a chance you land on a planet where their tech level is so low that Blasted's argument actually makes sense. So, yeah. Cover is your lover. Hold it close. Alright, so how do we fix this part? We've got two options, maybe three. And I don't love them, but one is that we're just sticking up these sides and hope that just like adding that rib, it will increase the strength of the part, because where it broke off, it's kind of hard to see. But if I hold this up here, let me... well, my camera actually was focusing. Oh, trying to move the mouse on the wrong screen, sorry. So, if we can just see there, you can kind of see where the part snapped off, right? So that's because it's weak in that orientation. And that's probably going to happen again. Come on, focus. There we go. That is probably going to happen again regardless if we keep printing in that orientation. So we need to keep that in consideration when we're making the replacement part. So the solution looks like... the problem is if we print in this orientation, we don't get the detail out of the wheel here, and we lose the structural integrity with the peg. Actually, the peg already doesn't have structural integrity. So there's two ways we could go about this. One is that this part gets lowered down to about here. Maybe a little bit higher. Basically where, let's see. Basically to where this ends up flat. And then we have to actually cut off the bottom. Now this will create an off-balance part, but we actually are also increasing the structural integrity of the peg, and this is in fact how our pegs print today when they're separate. But the question is, what happens to the mechanism on the inside here if all of a sudden the circle is broken? I don't know. So the third option is that, let's move that back up again. This is separate, and let's see. And instead, we create some kind of extension here and a sliding, much like our sliding open lock clips, the Nerney clips, it would slide down into place. And provided that it will probably stay in place all right, but it will significantly increase the bulk of the part that we're talking about. So I'm kind of leaning towards, let's duplicate this and see what it looks like, and I'm just going to do the ugliest job I possibly can fixing this, and we can see it's going to look atrocious. But basically, sorry, I'm rambling so much today. I'm just going to try grabbing all of these. Actually, let's do the line through, I think. So let's move the pivot point on this. It doesn't matter right now. And we're just going to do a simple line across, like so. And then we're just going to select and delete every polygon that's beneath that line, essentially. And let's see how that looks. So this is how it's going to flatten out. Now there are some overhangs here, but I kind of feel like this should be able to handle that. It's not too bad. Like, because the scale that we're printing at, it's not too much of a challenge. And yeah, the more I see this, the more I'm liking it. And I'm not actually going to know how well this performs until we can get to the stage of test printing it. So this won't happen on camera today. We've only got a quarter of an hour left. So whilst I am focusing on this, I would like you guys to tell me the following. What would you guys like to see in the cab at the back? Ladder, maybe, and then what? And I don't think it's going to be large enough to put a ton of amenities, but like what kind of wall features or that sort of thing do you think belongs in such a small cab? The larger models will have sleepers and freshers included. I don't think that's what this is for. Normally, like, I see the barge part as actually being more like a barge. But yeah, what do you see it as? Give me some inspiration, give me some ideas in the chat. It also lets me know that you guys actually care. The compact bed thing, I don't think it's going to fit, because if you wanted to have a ladder at the same time, let me just refresh your memories prior to working on this. So if I remove the roof here, you've got 2 squares in there, you've got maybe a quarter of a square strip there, so this is only like 2 centimeters wide. So technically, maybe there could just fit a little cot on the side. Maybe there needs to be some machinery to account for, the engines in there. Maybe this is just an engine compartment. I don't know. Anyway, I should not be making suggestions for you guys. You're the ones making suggestions for me. Well, shut up now. You give me some ideas. Well, I'm not going to shut up, but, I am going to ramble about this part as I work on it. Oh, what have I done? What happened to the isolate button? Oh, control 1. I'm an idiot. Don't know why, but my brain stopped working as far as my controls are concerned. So yeah, I'm gonna generate some walls here whilst you guys make some more suggestions. The easiest option, John, honestly, and I think the thing is, it's not going to get done now. I think I'm just going to leave the room as it is and update it later. But because probably what would happen is, yes, this will go to tribes now, and just like Operation Maelstrom, we'll probably include it with the base pledges. But I'm hoping there's just going to be enough content in there, and then hopefully the guys that are following it want to back it anyway. So obviously it's going to be one of the smaller of the vehicles. Let's see, what was I doing? I had created some geometry there. Some geometry there. Because right now I'm honestly pretty burnt out. And I've worked on this a fair bit more than I normally would. If this was a 3-parter, or even a 2-parter, and I really would, I'll tell you what's really tempting. Let me just turn off the workshop. No, it's crashing. It's crashing. This is not good. It claims to have saved a version of the file we're working on. Let's click reopen and hope for the best, but I don't think it did. to be honest. You know, this is the first time it's actually crashed in a long, long time. Although I'm not normally working with OBS on either, so we'll see. But if it doesn't say, hey, here's this crash file, it's probably not happening. And what do you know? The shutdown was not able to save a recovered version. So if I go open and I look in my autosave, there should be a version, but let's see, this is from 3:36, so we've lost 15 minutes. Which probably means that roof is back to where it was. No, it's done at least. Okay. Well, it must have just been bunging on or something. We didn't have the name here, so let's rename it again. And then the first thing you need to do when recovering from an autosave is to replace the original file, because it's quite easy to work on that autosave instead of your main scene. And the reason why you want to switch it over to that main scene, because this other one is like from over an hour ago now. So 2 hours ago, actually. So I go save as and replace that. If I don't do that, Maya's going to stop making autosaves because it doesn't make autosaves of autosaves. Pro tip. Alright, so fortunately for us, not too hard to replicate what we were just doing. And usually the second time around it goes about 50% faster. So let's get this aligned and isolated. And actually, I think we just need to dip this down first. Let's see. Because the part itself works great. And the original part is actually from the stand that John made for Operation Maelstrom. So I think we want to go like, I think we were here. And then we want to set it back to our grid to bring it down there. Let's isolate this. So it's separated, and then we do a cut, like so, and then we take out all of this geometry. And we'll know soon enough if we did it right. And I think the way we'll know is looking at that overhang. So let's zoom in on that. Let's remove this from the workshop so we can get rid of a bunch of unnecessary geometry. The overhang, I think this is the same, so that's not an issue. This, it's a slight issue, but I think it can deal with it. So right, foldable jump seat is always good, but Second Dynasty is known for having more toilets than any other sci-fi 3D printable ship, so you need a fresher. Hey, at least we think about the toilets. And the... well, that doesn't look right, does it? I think we needed to come down a little bit more than that, to be honest. Looking at this. And the reason is, see how the bottom is still intact here? So we do want some surface area with the printer, so we're going to have to... Let's bring this down a little bit again, and we'll do the same process all over again, just from the next sort of section. There we go. So it was off a little bit. You need contact area. Let's see, and I want to go from the left to right. Technically, Maya knows there's another area of the object hidden, but hopefully it doesn't affect it. So let's delete that, delete that. That gives us our flat surface again. Again, like, this will be slightly more offset than I would like, but, you know. Another option would be that you have, like, a little notch in there where you could actually add back the rest of this shape in a similar way, but it's just so small, I don't think it's worth it. Yeah, I think I forgot to turn off my mail program again. And actually, let's save the scene before we do anything else, eh? A hot tub. Yeah, well, maybe if the whole thing was a hot tub, that would make sense. Right now, it would just act more as like a cistern, I think. So yeah, this feels more right. There's a lot more surface area here. Yeah, let's cover that. It does feel different to last time though, and I'm not quite putting my finger on why. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Let's create some n-gons there, and may as well triangulate those. Maybe actually these are in enough of a shape that I could quad them back again. There we go. Nope, didn't look good. We'll leave it be. And this area here, let's just make a proper split down the middle. I don't know why that's flat. That's a bit odd, but it really doesn't matter in the case of this design. So I just wanted something to create a bit of symmetry on this end. Let's see, something like that. And then, yeah, I'm just gonna do the lazy job and create some n-gons here. You can see there's already some intersection, and that's quite deliberate. Like it will just fix it in the slicer. But let's see what the name is on this thing. So the old one. Let's make this a bit bigger so we can find it. This is well timed actually. So the old one should be in here somewhere. Unless I just ripped it. God, I'm blind. Here it is. So in this case, I had named it starboard, and we actually are going to need a starboard version now. So let's delete these since we don't need them anymore. So this is the original one in the orientation intended. Now let's create a new one. And I'm okay overriding this at the moment. I'm just hoping... actually, before I get in here, I'm going to save this again. I'll just flag that there's a good chance that we might encounter a bug with Maya where it exports like a 4 gig file instead of the STL file. I do know a workaround for that, so I'm just going to assume that is the case. So what I'm just going to do is create a polygon cube and merge these two objects together, and then I'm just going to delete that geometry. And I don't know why it does it this way, and it doesn't happen to everything, but there are a few older objects where it has done that. So I'm just going to go to export this again. Ox Star Lifter is what I was naming it. Maybe that's the name we'll go with, I'm not sure. And then we paste the replacement file. And again, I'm not too unhappy about overriding because I know this part has failed already. So let's load this in and let's rotate it to the correct orientation. And let's fix it as well. And now let's just do a slice and let's look at where it was failing and why this is a better solution all around. So the one possible reason that it might not be the greatest is because the hinge on the actual engine will click around and then at a certain point it's just going to be free until it clicks again. So maybe not optimal. I'm going to have to test print and see how it is. But we still do have this peg. Whoops. I don't know what I did just then. I think it's time-related G-code or something. Let's try going back to the regular version. There we go. So here, these walls, because they were being printed horizontally, we didn't have any print problems or print failures, aside from the fact that I was getting some curling on the bottom here. So now we do have, these walls were just being too thin, Part of it might have been because, well, actually, no, it couldn't have been any other reason. Look, we've got 2 extrusions wide, and it was just a case of between those layers, it just gets weak. So, and we're also inserting a separate object on the inside to increase the strength. So now instead, we have the layers where the strength is in this direction, and this is where the engine is actually needing that structural reinforcement, right? So I think this will be a winner. Let's export and replace. And actually, we don't need to have a separate side now that I think about it. You just would flip it, because I don't think there's anything different. I think the part looks generally a little bit better too. So let's reload this one, and it should be replaced by this new one. So let's see, reload from disk. Yep. So I'm happy with that. And I am going to import it into here, along with some of the new parts, and test print this shortly. So we're at the 4 o'clock mark now. It's 2 minutes past 4. I haven't talked to John or Albin about it, but one of the two will run some kind of live stream for the next coming Fridays. So if all goes according to plan, I should see you guys in about 4 weeks. 5 weeks, I guess, would technically, is when I'll be back. But if for some reason next week we still don't have the campaign page up for Traveller Fifth Frontier War, I may well still be working. So fingers crossed I see you guys in 5 weeks, because it means I get a holiday and with the allotted time. And then when I come back, the exciting thing is John's coming. So he's going to be in Sweden again for a month. And that also means our printers might get tuned a little bit with all the wonderful knowledge he's acquired printing our physical models, and people keep gushing about how awesome the quality of the prints are. So yeah, I've bought myself a couple alien novels to read. Hopefully we're going to get a little bit of sun. It's very sunny today, but I've got some cleaning to do. We've got a visitor coming next week. So let me just take a few minutes to say thank you guys. You're awesome. You continue to make it possible so that I can work with something I'm so passionate about. And taking the time off is all about coming back to it with the same kind of passion, so that I can give you the best kind of products. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Can I stay away from Maya for a month? We'll see. We'll see. But there will be no pressure. And probably way too much Civilization 6 if it rains. Alright guys. Bye.